Hi, I didn't see you there. My name is CJ, I'm an actor, and I am transgender. Several years ago, I graduated from a university with a Bachelor of Arts in Theater Arts. In fact, I graduated magna cum laude. I studied the Masters of Theater Craft, script analysis, production, performance, theory, all of that for 4 years. And while I am a working stage actor, on a standard day in the social media discourse, all of that knowledge usually means absolutely nothing. However, people keep posting on social media about actors like Eddie Redmayne or Scarlett Johansson portraying transgender characters, primarily making the claim that this is 100% okay for them to do because, quote, actors pretend to be somebody they're not. That's how acting works. And so at long last, my nonsense major and bullshit life finally have a meaning. I am uniquely qualified to inform these people of the following. You don't know how acting works! That's right. This useless piece of paper that has my dead name on it means that I have the authority to tell you that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. All of you people posting about how acting is just pretending to be somebody else are less qualified than me, a transgender person who once spent a full semester in a class called musical theater. I will give you $5 if you can guess what we did in that class. It wasn't singing, acting, dancing, or any combination of the three. And I am so excited, internet, to use my hippie tutelage to explain to you that what you're saying isn't fucking anything. When an audience member watches a play, film, TV series, or whatever, they are engaging in what's called suspension of disbelief, a term originating from Aristotle's Principles of Theater to describe the audience's willingness to accept fiction as reality. In order to consume the medium of performance, audiences have to subconsciously accept that what they're seeing with their own eyes is real for the duration of said performance. Especially when it comes to celebrities playing roles, creators aren't trying to hide who the actor is. In fact, they usually really heavily market who the actor is. They're not trying to lie to the audience. And audiences, in turn, don't rate their enjoyment of a film based solely in how much they were tricked into thinking an actor was in fact the character they were playing all along. It's a universally agreed truth that, yes, that's Tom Hardy. I see it's Tom Hardy. I'm gonna go ahead and spend the next 2 hours watching him tell the story of a humble New Yorker possessed by alien goo who then eventually becomes his friend. Because even though Tom Hardy is not in fact Eddie Brock, he was considered by a casting director to be the best person to embody that story and experience. So why was any of that important? Besides the fact that I never want another stranger to tell me, a transgender actor, that I don't know how acting works, the concepts I've covered all lead to why cisgender actors playing transgender characters is such an issue. When casting directors, which by the way I have also been a casting director if you want to just continue to doubt my expertise on this further, picks an actor to play a role, they're picking who they believe can best tell that story of that character, like Tom Hardy playing Eddie Brock. By casting cisgender people as transgender characters, this sends a message to audiences that transgender people are not the best people to tell our own stories. This leaves our experiences in the hands of people who can dive as deep into the Stanislavski method as they want, but still have not lived our experience. Our ability to tell our own narrative is filtered through cisgender perceptions of our experiences, most if not all of which are entirely incorrect. And when this happens over and over again, it only enforces that idea further. The fact is that there are plenty of transgender actors all over the world who are willing and ready to tell our stories, but we're all too often tossed to the side, told that we don't look enough like what casting directors expect from transgender people, or told we don't pass enough, or we pass too much. Just go ahead and Google transgender actor statistics and go ahead and get depressed with me. I read them for a bit and I had to go lie down. Additionally, when cisgender actors are cast as transgender characters more often than they're not, it is actively giving audiences false information about what it means to be transgender. We already face the entirely incorrect idea that we are just people of our assigned gender at birth pretending to be another gender. Like, for example, that transgender women are just men in dresses. Having Eddie Redmayne, a cisgender man, playing a transgender woman in a movie about a transgender woman actively contributes to that, for example. And this perception of transgender people results in harassment and violence against us. It creates the idea that we are trying to trick people into believing that we're a gender that we're not. And a lot of times people say a man who is terrified of being perceived as gay thinks that they're being tricked by a man in a dress pretending to be a woman. It leads to violence and murder. A lot. And what's worse is that these statistics only increase for people of color, Black and Indigenous people, who already have multiple identities that are already marginalized in our community. And it doesn't really matter if you, the cisgender viewer, believe this is the effect media has on you or not, because media's effect on society and how we view the world around us is a scientific fact that has been studied more than you could Google without getting a headache. That would be an entirely other video. But CJ, I already hear you say, does this mean that transgender people aren't allowed to play cisgender people? Does this mean no one is allowed to pretend to be anybody else? Well, first of all, anyone is allowed to do anything with their movie or stage show or whatever. It doesn't mean that there won't be consequences like people not wanting to see it. But second of all, that's a false equivalence. Cisgender people are not marginalized or oppressed in our society strictly for being cisgender. There is not a history of colonialism in which cisgender identities were wiped out and transgender identities were enforced. There's not a slew of transgender actors claiming directly or indirectly that we are the best people to tell the story of being the same gender we were assigned at birth. Oppression doesn't work both ways. Yes, in an ideal world without any kind of systemic oppression, it would be easy to say that acting is just a matter of pretending to be somebody else, and therefore anyone should be allowed to portray any character. But there is a pattern created by casting cisgender actors as transgender characters over and over and over again. At a certain point, you have to ask yourself, is it worth continuing a pattern that contributes to systemic oppression? For Eddie Redmayne to not even win an Oscar for The Danish Girl? But CJ, I hear you continue, what about if it's the story of someone transitioning from one gender to the other? Well, good news. Us trans folks can play that experience too. It turns out we're super talented, and we're also capable of making decisions about what feels comfortable for us to do as performers. If I, for instance, am not interested in playing a female role, I won't do it. But there are times I feel comfortable doing so. Us trans performers are more than able to figure out our own boundaries. Because we're professionals. So, here's to all of you people typing out comments about how acting works. Much like cisgender actors trying to play trans, you don't know what you're doing. You are not the most qualified voice in the room. And that's okay. Because if you truly, truly believe that transgender people are worthy of respect and autonomy, then you should want us to tell our own stories. We're really good at it. This is a caffeine-free Diet Coke because my body is very bad at handling caffeine.